Fine. Okay, so we start now. Good afternoon and welcome. Namaskar. My name is Lalit Kishore Bhati. I'm an architect and urban planner by profession, but I consider myself the resident and of this place, Auroville, where I have been living for last 20 years, and what Auroville has been providing the opportunity to learn. So, thank you very much for joining and taking interest in this event, and also welcoming and thank you all the speakers, those who are already here among us. Dr. Christoph Voivode from IGCS IIT Chennai is also here with us. And so the sequence and the order is like this. So we will just have a short series introduction and welcome. After that, we will have Mr. R. Srinivas, a senior city and country planner from DCPO, the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs Organization of Government of India. He will talk about urban guidelines and RDPFI guidelines. Then I'll be sharing about Auroville bioregional experiences. Then we will have Mr. Probir Banerjee, who will talk about the work done on Pondicherry, Villupuram, Auroville and Cuddalore regional plan and some other efforts with with many various colleagues, including the local government administration, Pondicherry government. He has been doing quite amazing work. So this particular session of today is starting from this Auroville area in that sense, thematic. I'm assuming most of you have got the first poster in the invitation where the overview has been given of the 4 sessions. So what I personally noticed that we have cities are an act of bringing humanity together. They have been acting on this for last thousands of years, and cities have been thriving also in a particular setting in their regional manner. Those regions have been selected first. They have been acting as a base for that living ecosystem which it provides. Cities are a very intriguing phenomenon. So after, let us say, almost 10,000 years of journey, right from the early human civilization till the present time where we have reached, cities are passing through a very different phenomenon, and we have reached a point where we have different organizations, including UN organizations, which talk about SDs, Sustainable Development Goals, eco-cities, resilient cities, climate-sensitive development, many aspects. So there is quite a lot of emphasis on cities as an engine of growth, as a turning point, as an agent for transformation. So effort in this webinar series is to create a learning space. We are not attempting to give anybody a discourse or a lecture on how regional planning is done, why this is important. That is another part. What we are trying to do, how different efforts are being done within India, abroad, and how the interested one can come together and we can learn from each other and create a kind of a community of the people, those who are interested and those who may be also willing to share their works, ideas, and take it further in some form or another. Towards this, we have some example. You will see now some practical examples from Auroville and Pondicherry area and how the collaboration has been happening. We have academic world. Dr. Christoph will talk about that, how IGCS Center in IIT Chennai has been working towards this. We have many academicians, very eminent academicians in the panel, in the 4 sessions you will see. So we have, it is just an attempt which is being made to bring the focus on how cities and regions have been interacting with each other, how has been the nature of their relationship, and if we could work towards creating or to make this relationship more nourishing towards for all, and how this could be a city and region could be a kind of a living curriculum. So this is the larger or the overall intention of this series, and we hope that you like. So one more thing about the sequence. So every speaker is requested to complete the presentation in 18 minutes, followed by 7 minutes of question and answer short session. So whatever we can complete in that. And towards the end, we will have some time where we can take overall question answer sessions. So this is the overall format. Please keep your mic on mute, that would be very helpful. And also, again, thanks for joining and welcome to all the people, those who may be watching us on YouTube and Facebook. This is it from my side, and I will pass it on to Dr. Christoph to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Lalit, and good afternoon all. Welcome to this series. My name is Christoph Woibode, and I'm an urban and regional planner and anthropologist by training. Got my training in Berlin, which is my hometown, but I'm at the moment located at the Indo-German Center for Sustainability in Chennai, which is part of IIT Madras, Indian Institute of Technology, which is one of the premier academic and higher education institutions in India. I'm sure most of you are aware of that. And the IGCS is a collaboration between the Indian and German governments. And one of the focus areas of the IGCS is land use, urban and regional development, and sustainability in this context. The collaboration is with a number of German universities as well. I'm also attached to RWTH Aachen University, which is one of the large technical universities in Germany, and visiting faculty here at IIT Madras. The other core areas of IGCS that the center is concerned with in terms of topics and research is water management, geohydrology, and waste management, sewage systems, and finally also energy. And there are other universities like the Technical University Berlin involved, University of Stuttgart, and Kiel University. So what we are trying to create is an ecology of networked higher education. So with this webinar series, we want to also highlight part of the work that we have done in this area of urban development at IGCS. And one of the early focus areas since its inception was actually to look into peri-urbanization in the Indian and also European and German context. So one of the earliest research projects that we started in 2013 was to understand the dynamics of peri-urbanization in and around Chennai, in the larger Chennai region. And that is also one of the topics that we will cover in the webinar series in about 2 weeks' time, where the team around Professor Chellarajan and our partner university in the PeriScene project in the United Kingdom will present current ongoing research about peri-urbanization in Europe and India. So what Lalit already mentioned before is what we intend to do in this series is to create a conversation and a dialogue about these issues. And we also want to understand the global phenomena of cities and their regions in different parts of the world. So this is not only about classification, but this is also trying to understand differences and similarities of dynamics, of stakeholders, of planning systems. So for example, the series will have next week a session that will also look into how the German federal planning system, spatial planning system functions. What are the different roles of the agencies, government agencies, non-government organizations, and so on and so forth. So I'm very glad that we have this eminent lineup of speakers here for today. And without further ado, I hope that you enjoy the session here and contribute to it. I pass on to Lalit.
Thank you, Christoph. Thank you very much. We can also directly enter. We are keeping well with the time. We are on the time track. I would like to invite now Mr. Srinivas from TCPO to start his part of presentation. Mr. Srinivas.
Yeah. Where is that presentation? Can I start, Lalit?
Yes, please. You
Uh,
can.
Everyone can see the slides.
It is coming, I guess. We still see the small screen. The full view, you have to make it a full view or the presentation mode.
Just a minute. It's in full screen only. Now you can see.
Yeah, it has come now.
Yeah. Let me begin my presentation. At the outset, I want to thank Lalit and Auroville Integral Sustainability Institute (IC), as well as Indo-German Center for Sustainability (IGCS) at IIT Chennai. Mr. Chris, Dr. Chetan Vidya, he is already there, and students and friends. Uh, I would like to thank Lalit Bhatti for giving me the opportunity, and I'm going to start with this RADFI guidelines and urban mission. In fact, urban mission was launched in 2016, and at the same time in 2017 we got a request from Ministry of Panchayati Raj that why can't you work on RADFI, Rural Area Development Plan Formulation and Implementation Guidelines, on the lines of URDPI guidelines. So this both the exercise, urban mission as well as RADPI guidelines, we had worked together, and my involvement in urban mission was, in the beginning when they were preparing guidelines for preparing the ICAP, Integrated Cluster Action Plan. I was involved in that, drafting the guidelines. So let me start with the vision. The RADFI guidelines mission of, vision is to have framework for spatial planning for villages to have overall integrated development. In fact, no. Now most of us, we are aware that we don't have any, special planning for, either villages or gram panchayat. So there was a lot of thinking going on at that time, when urban mission was launched, and the urban mission, objective was to development of a cluster of villages that preserve and nurture the essence of rural community life with focus on equity, inclusiveness without compromising with the facilities perceived to be essentially urban in nature, thus creating the cluster of urban villages. Now, I mean, the basic objective is to extend urban facilities to rural areas. And in fact, our late Honorable President Dr. Abdul Kalam, he had also vision. He says Pura, providing urban amenities to rural areas. So once the national urban mission was launched, the entire Pura was subsumed in this mission. Now, RADPFA guidelines essentially, it provides the framework, norms, and standards for infrastructure provision in rural areas. In fact, you are all aware, URDFI guidelines in detail has prescribed norms and standards. So on the same line, we have done for the rural areas, and it goes beyond the provision of basic infrastructure facilities in rural areas and mentions the need for special planning. Most of the students, they are aware that, the rural development, of course, you have development plans for gram panchayat, but these plans are all sectoral plans and there is no focus on special planning. So that is the essence of the guidelines, that we must come out with the we must focus on the special plan for gram panchayats. Now somebody may ask question that why not village development plan. So there was a technical committee, it was headed by Director General, National Institute of Development, National Institute of Rural Development, and Panchayati Raj institution, and there were other experts, Professor Sridharan, then Dr. P.K. Monti. We unanimously agreed that the ideal unit for preparing the plan for rural area should be gram panchayat. Administratively it is much more convenient, and you are all aware that we have a 6 lakh plus, population, and it is impossible to prepare development plan or a special plan for village, taking so many lakhs of villages. So that's what it was decided, that let us have an ideal planning unit called Gram Panchayat. So it was a Gram Panchayat Special Development Plan. And again, RAD5 guidelines, follow the URD5 guidelines, unlike ULBs, where the focus is mainly on infrastructure development for provisioning services. Rural local bodies are to consider a host of additional issues, including ensuring rights and entitlement for citizens, service delivery, and basic amenities. This will be a huge challenge for, extending all the facilities to the, rural areas. Now, what is a urban mission? I mean, Honorable Prime Minister had made a statement in 2016 that village as a center of growth. How they can become, normally in our urban mindset, we say that cities are growth engine for economy, but at the same time we should also see villages or the rural areas as center of growth. Now Urban Mission was launched in 2015 with an outlay of 5,142.08 crore, and in fact now the work, if you see the latest progress which is available in the Ministry of Rural Development website, now almost 6,180 crore of work is ongoing. So that means not only the central government has extended the financial assistance, but at the same time the state government is also contributing towards implementing the urban projects. And overall aim is to development of rural growth clusters which have latent potential for growth in all states and UTs that would trigger overall development in the region. And in fact, then only we can think of regional plan. If you are going to disaggregate the proposals of regional plan, somewhere we have to think about the planning at the ground panchayat level. Now, RAD5 and Urban Mission. Now you can see that Urban Mission is going to facilitate development of cluster of smart villages. And again, the mission aims to create 300 such urban growth centers over the next 3 years across the country. And there's also, a special feature in Urban Mission guidelines that the cluster of villages can always avail fund through convergence of schemes. There are various schemes, whether it is pertaining to health or self-employment or rural housing, social infrastructure. I mean, it's up to the Gram Panchayat. They have to identify what are the deficiencies, and accordingly they can avail funding under different schemes. Now, development of smart villages, how it will go. The step one is that state government they have to identify the clusters using the framework for implementation of implementation prepared by the Ministry of Rural Development. Then the basic parameter that the cluster of villages should have population of 25,000 to 5,000 in plain and coastal areas, whereas in tribal areas, desert and hilly, the population should range from 5,000 to 15,000. And again, a specific process of cluster selection that involves objective analysis has to be at district, sub-district or village level. And then again, demography, you have to focus on demography, transportation, corridor impact, tourism, pilgrimage significance, and of course, how the economy is going to improve at the rural level. So these are the major, component you can see in the rural RAD5 urban guidelines, which includes rural housing, social infrastructure, agri-service processing, and of course, once you are investing on these infrastructure, at the same time, education also becomes very much important. And what states are supposed to do? States will prepare the integrated cluster action plan, and in addition to the critical gap funding, proactive steps to be taken to ensure the success of mission with adequate budget provisions. That central government have ensured adequate budget provisions, and the scheme through development of urban growth clusters will aim at catalyzing the overall regional growth, would thus simultaneously benefit the rural areas as well as urban areas of the country. Of course, twin objectives have to be fulfilled: strengthening of rural areas, deburdening the urban areas, hence leading to balanced regional development and growth of the country. Now, there are 14 mandatory components which, through integrated cluster action plan, 14 mandatory components have to be covered. I mean, a few are there: digital literacy, cluster village connectivity, then citizen-centric service, e-gram connectivity. Now, today we had a meeting on connectivity issues. Most of the the workshops, the meetings are conducted through e-webinars, e-meetings. Now, because of the COVID scenario, now all efforts have to be made that our gram panchayats are connected with high-speed internet connectivity. Of course, public transport facilities is also one of the important component. LPG gas connection, most of us, we are aware about how Prime Minister has taken the initiative that LPG gas connection should be given to each and every household. Of course, agro processing will be the main economic basis of economic basis of the rural areas. And again, if you are going for agro processing industries, then you need to ensure the services, agro services, including storage and warehousing. These are the facilities which are lacking in rural areas, and efforts have to be made to strengthen or to upgrade the existing storage and warehousing facilities. Sanitation facilities, again, under the Swachh Bharat mission, the aim is that every household must have toilet facilities, and we have to move towards zero open defecation. That is the vision of our honorable Prime Minister. Provision of water, pipe water supply, solid and liquid waste management, upgrading education facilities. If we are able to provide to all the rural areas, I think there is a tremendous scope for preparing as well as implementing the integrated cluster action plan. Now, this is the illustration, urban mission, how steps have to be taken at cluster level, and then you move to village and household level in order to ensure access to the basic facilities. Now, kindly see, this is a very interesting table which we have prepared. We have 6.50 lakh population. 6.40 lakh villages, total number of villages, and you just see that. Just remove this. No, just a minute. Remove this. Yeah, you just see the villages between 2,000 to 4,999, or the 2,000 to 5,000. 35% of the rural population stays within this, and 76.46% of the rural population lives in the villages less than 5,000 population. Then again, if you are considering villages less than 5,000 population, there's a huge challenge. And you see, if you between 5,000 to 999, 18,000 villages have got more than 5,000 population, and these villages have got the potential to be converted into urban local bodies if they satisfy certain criteria. Maybe in 2021 census, large number of villages which are falling within 5,000 to 10,000 population are going to become urban centers. It's taking time. Yeah. Now, if we have examined, when we were preparing the guidelines for integrated cluster action plan, we had examined few town and country planning acts, which have the provision of either village development plan or gram panchayat plan. What we could see that state of West Bengal, Karnataka Town and Country, West Bengal, they have got a Town and Country Planning Act 1979, Karnataka Town and Country Planning Act 1961. Then Goa Daman Diu Town and Country Planning Act 1974. Bihar Urban Planning and Development Act. This is the latest, act which was totally revised. They are old, and it has got a lot of provisions for preparing plans not only for urban areas but also preparing plan for the rural areas. In fact, it has got the provision for, you can see this serial number B, identify and map the facilities at the level of village, block, city, and district. So that itself, empowers the state government to prepare, gram panchayat plan. Now, this we have intentionally, added the categories of town. So we have 7,933 cities and towns as per 2011 census. Now there's every possibility by 2021 we are going to have 10,000 plus cities and towns, and we will be very much curious or very much interested to know that how many rural settlements or how many villages which have got population from 5,000 to 10,000 are going to be converted into cities, or rather towns. Now these are some of the photographs which we have, we got from the state government, that how many states have attempted to prepare either the district plan or plan at the local level, or at the plan for rural areas. And this map shows about how the transformation has taken place. It gives in blue color, if you can see the small town and large cities, 18,1854, then followed by capital large cities. And it is again I will repeat that 2021 census will give total different figure. And we will also be interested to know that how many census towns, I mean the census town still comes under the jurisdiction of gram panchayat, are going to be converted into urban local bodies. This is one of the example where Tiruchirappalli district, where they have prepared the plans at the taluk as well as block level. Yes, now I am, because it is going to take a lot of time. I am not going to read each and every.
Mr. Srinivas, 3 minutes left.
Yeah. I am just coming, way forward. Now the time has come that we must ensure, the special development plan for gram panchayat. That is very much important. And in order to, have a balanced urbanization, it's very much important that you need to redistribute, the urban population. And you are all aware that almost 40% of the urban population is in 53 million plus cities. And again, if you are going to have a regional plan for metropolitan, if we have a 53 metropolitan regions, there is every possibility to redistribute population, and we can always have self-sustaining gram panchayat if we are going to have gram panchayat special plan. So I will it's only 3 minutes. Quickly I will RADFI guidelines, you kindly go through that. It gives clear-cut methodology for preparing gram panchayat special development plan. I think this is a repetition. And you can see the distribution of million plus cities, class 1 cities. And now the challenge will be that how we are going to delineate the metropolitan regions, all the 53, some of the cities have already delineated, but the challenge would be how we are going to delineate 53 million plus cities. Now I'm going to skip, this is a simple methodology how we are going to have spatial planning at the rural area, at the rural level. These are the contents. I will request all the students kindly download the RADFI guidelines and kindly go through that. And these are the chapterization and contents of the RADFI guidelines. I'm going to skip that. It will take. This is a progress report. Kindly, Lalit, if you are sharing, you please share with all the participants. They can go through that. What has been the progress achieved so far? Only observation is that West Bengal and Delhi, they have not completed any integrated cluster action plan. Chandigarh, the only UT that has not submitted any cluster for approval. Other than that, progress report shows contribution of all states and UTs at par. Most of the states, they are, they have already reached, the stage where they have completed integrated cluster action plan. Thank you very much. Anchal, if you want to add something, only 1 minute is left. Kindly, you want to say something. I must thank Anchal for assisting me in making this presentation. Thanks a lot.
The only thing that I can add to this is, as sir has already told us about the census towns, the problem in India that I think that majorly the governments and the urban planners are facing is that from 2001 to 2011, there was an addition of almost 3,000 census towns, because the census towns, there is this definition that it should have a minimum of 5,000 population and 75% of people should be involved in other than agricultural activities. Because of that, a lot of census towns came up, and there is a projection that in this particular decade, by 2021, we'll observe higher rise. The reason and the actual requirement to make these rural development plans is so that when it comes to urban local bodies and when we start designing and planning for a city, what happens is there's a lot of since there are no bylaws, there are no rules, people are just growing like that only. So that therefore we need to have planning from the start. If we plan it right the first time, then planning becomes easier, not just for the government, for the economy, but also for the community or the people who are living there. So with that, I would like to end the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Srinivas and Anchal. So I'm requesting the participants to post your questions here in the chat box. I already mentioned. So there is already a question, Mr. Srinivas, you can read it.
Yeah. There's a question. The state, what about participation stakeholder process? If there is also an aim of strengthening rural local bodies, capacity building would be required for local authorities. Is this part? Yes, it's a part, very much. I mean, it's a part. And in fact, let me tell you, when we were,
Mr. Srinivas, you are a bit less audible. I think the bit better sound will help somehow. I think there is a comment already. Yeah, better.
Yeah. No, Chris is asking about the stakeholder consultation. And when we were formulating the guidelines for integrated cluster action plan, we had a detailed, stakeholder consultation where we invited the state town planners, from all the state town and country planning departments. And we tried our best to sensitize the state town planning department that you must come up with the proposal of preparing integrated cluster action plan. And the integrated cluster action plan is supposed to be notified under the Town and Country Planning Act. But somehow town planning department they were a little bit defensive on this, because they said that the huge task is that we have to have master plan for all the 7,933 cities and towns. And out of these cities, only 2,800 cities and towns have actually the notified master plan. So again, it will be a huge challenge to prepare, special development plan for gram panchayat. There are around 2.6 lakh gram panchayats in Delhi. But of course, it's a long process. And we are very much, very much serious about the capacity building. Once, in fact, while preparing the ICAP at the state level, there was a lot of stakeholder consultation took place. And of course, capacity building, which is still it's lacking. Central government, Ministry of Rural Development and National Institute of Rural Development is very much aware of that. And they are actually conducting capacity building program at the regular level, regular interval.
Thank you. There is another question you can read by Nidhi Agarwal.
Just a minute. Where is that? Just a minute. Sanitation is key focus area in urban mission. So is there any focus being laid on fecal strategy? What is it? Fecal sludge management also in the... Yes. FSM now, in fact, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, they are now started advocating about FSM. But again, it will take some time for rural areas. Once the Swachh Bharat mission, the objectives are fulfilled, I think the next step is to introduce FSM in the rural areas. But again, it depends on the state government how proactive they will be in introducing FSM in. First, I think we have to test the FSM in the urban areas, and based on the success of the FSM in small and medium towns, I think the focus is on towards small and medium towns about this fecal sludge management. Based on the success of small and medium towns, the same can be replicated in the...
We can take one more questions, and I think that then the time will be up. There's a question from Probir about urban water bodies which are getting destroyed, and they have a link with the surrounding.
Yes. Regarding urban water bodies, in fact, we had prepared under Jal Abhiyan, Jal Shakti Abhiyan, we had prepared guidelines for water conservation measures, and it had 4 components, which included rainwater harvesting, strengthening of water bodies, and this we prepared and we had circulated to all the states. But again, the criticism will be that water bodies are getting, they are depleting. But it again depends on this concerned state government, the concerned local body, rural local body, as well as urban local body. They have to take proactive steps to strengthen the urban water bodies. That's also a huge challenge. And again, this year we had, in fact, IMD says that it's a surplus rainfall, and this has given the opportunity to recharge our groundwater. So Tamil Nadu is one of the state which has effectively implemented the rainwater harvesting. So they have also demonstrated that groundwater recharge, I mean, it has shown the positive results. So example of Tamil Nadu has to be replicated in other states. Hopefully in coming years, there will be a lot of focus on strengthening the water bodies.
Thank you very much. With this, we will take a pause. I would request you to go through all the questions, and maybe it would be helpful if when you have some free time or whenever you are listening to others, if you can respond to some of these questions. And just for participants, whatever these questions are there, we'll be copying them with us,
Yes.
and we'll try to respond to them, or we'll share with each speaker if they can write back or post. We have all of your email ID, those who have registered. So we can post that also, and let us see how much time we get towards the end.
Lalit, you can share the questions with us. We are going to answer each and every question.
Thank you very much. That is really very nice. I have a larger question which is related to the in general planning affairs. I'll just post it now, and we can see. My general feeling is there are many good examples which must be happening, but somehow in our planning system or general outlook, even we are going very digital, and India is also very IT related, let us say power or superpower. We must have all of these examples, guidelines on some kind of portal where these things are easily accessible. I think it's easy accessibility because so much of effort is being done. Not many people may be aware that these kind of guidelines are existing. At the same time, after you presented, one very commonsensical thing came to my mind. So which are those leading examples, those who have done work on these guidelines? They have completed the full process, the full documentation of that. The visual, I think it is not the numbers. Numbers are fine. It is the visual. We first read or assess things by the visual, how the work is happening, photo documentation, GIS, all this is there. I have gone through many of the planning related websites in India and abroad. So work is happening, but if we put all of this information there, the community participation, the response, the question to most of these things, I think it can be handled at that level. This was my general comment, larger comment for not only this, but maybe other things. And thank you very much again to you.
Your comments have been absolutely noted. And in fact, we will impress upon ministry, and under smart cities, you can see a lot of the presentations, the latest developments have been shared from time to time. And in fact, smart city mission, they are also releasing weekly newsletter. So the latest development you can always think. But at the same time, the Ministry of Rural Development should also showcase the success stories of integrated cluster action plan. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. One of the favorite topic which I always mentioned, and I'll touch in my presentation also, is we should have a city and regional intranet where the people can access information easily, all program, government schemes, because all this information is available. People are working. So if this is put, or what the Probi talks about, there's a water body issue, people can upload the photos, issues, what funds are earmarked for that area, this can be shown and discussed. I think if we can reach that level of facilitation and transparency, it will not only empower people, but it will enhance their faith in our way of working and delivering the good planning work. So thank you very much with this, and I will request you to, you are out already, you are not sharing, fine. So next would be me only. I'll be sharing, we have also Mr. Anbarasu has also joined. And I'll start with my presentation.
Lalit, good evening.
Very good evening, sir. How are you?
Yeah, long time.
Yes. So you are going to be there with us, Mr. Anbarasu. Mr. Anbarasu is an IAS officer from Puducherry government, and he's a development commission, and he holds many other posts. And I had a chance to interact with him when we were working on Puducherry Heritage Revitalization Project combined with economic and environmental objectives. And he has been very instrumental in also the water bodies revival, which Prabir is going to present after me. So you will have a chance to hear him. I'm sure he is very busy, but I hope you can be with us or come back in some time, sir.
Pardon?
I hope you will be with us for some
Hello?
time. Yeah.
Yeah. If you permit me, I will just make a brief introduction and then I will leave. I've been called for a meeting at 5:30, so I would like to try to spend as much time possible with all of you.
So can you wait for some time, or you have?
Yeah, I'll wait for. I'm supposed to leave around 5:30, so I can wait for some time. No issues.
I will try to wind up by that time. That is also good time for me.
Okay. Please carry on, Lalit. Pleasure joining with all of you.
Thank you very much. So, you can see the slide is up. Is it visible?
Yeah.
Is it fine, everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. So again, we have these 4 sessions planned. I'll directly go to the next part of this. So this is our first session, which we are going through. Just a quick overview about this is our registered participation. The map, how people have shown interest from all over the world, different parts. It is also noticed typically after registration, you have less than half, 30-40% people, which we are aware and used to. And this is a bit more closer look of from within India. And on the left-hand side, you can see the categorization. The large majority is student, then faculty member, professionals, researchers, government officials, and in the green is speakers and some interested citizens. Just a quick snapshot. So I also like and believe we should be as visual as possible. That helps. Some of you may be aware about this. The one of the first time when the term Rurban was used, Rurban, there was international gas union competition in year 2000. They talked about urban future and energy for a 100-year vision. And this was the entry by our Indian team with an example of Goa. And the first prize was won by Vancouver region. We actually tried to have Vancouver person also, but because of the timing, it is not. Arumar Revi, director of IIHS, Rahul Marotra, and the architect Sanjay Prakash. Some people were involved in this exercise. Very detailed, very interesting work was done. How the city and region integration takes place. So this is one of the references. I have been working with Dr. Christoph on some of the inner sustainability related elements also. That is our common interest. So I'm just sharing one of the seminars which we did. And I'll be sharing about Auroville bioregional activity. And just to give a context, Shivindo says, all problems of existence are essentially the problems of harmony. So that gives a context when we are dealing about development, being together, living together, what are we talking about? So this is, I'll go through it a bit quickly because we have, so Auroville is based on the spiritual vision of Mother and Shivindo. And Auroville has a charter. So if a city has a very well-defined charter, and that also makes it very clear when we talk about the city visions and some other things. So the purpose, who is coming to Auroville, why they should be coming, on what they should be working essentially on themselves on a collective setup, but based on certain values. So there is a lot of information and documentation available on Auroville main website, which I would encourage people to go through. It is important to know some of the basic background about Auroville before we enter into bioregional activity, because there is a direct connect with that. So we are above 3,000 people from 55 countries. They all are voluntary workers here when we live here, voluntary residents. Auroville is only 50 years young as compared to any other city, which may be on an average 700 to 1,000 year old. So just to keep a context in mind, and only less than approximately 3,000 people. And the aim of Auroville is human unity, figuring it out how to live together, how to work together for a particular or higher cause. This was the beginning of Auroville. The land was barren. There was no budget, equipment, sources. This was a tough condition. Even if the aim was very high, it was a very, very degraded land condition. And in the, you can have a look which kind of condition, the ravines, there was issue with the water and soil. So people worked very tirelessly in a very voluntary spirit, but along with the local people. And in the first 20 years, what has happened is the entire area has been converted into a forest. So when a forest comes, what the forest ecology works, microclimate, groundwater table, social equations, many things change. So Auroville has been working on this very bottom-up grassroots approaches, but again, which has a very spiritual vision. We have to keep that in mind. Some of the images from Auroville. So the proposed population is 50,000. So this is Auroville's master plan, which has been approved and gazetted also. Auroville is attached to Ministry of HRD. So the central part where 1, 2, 3, 4 is written is the city area where there are 4 zones surrounded by the green belt, and this green belt has 6 of the local villages also. One of the important things to keep in mind, this is a framework of integral education given by the mother, the founder of Auroville, but this can get applied in almost every situation. She talks about the growth of human being on all these planes, physical, mental, vital, spiritual, and psychic. And unfortunately, most of our educational, the parameters or focus remain mostly only on rather mental or lower mental approaches, which is a fear-based approach, but not the fulfillment and development of human potential. So in Auroville, effort is made to go towards this direction. These are some of the images, how the water, the forest. This is image from one of the earlier schools. I'm just giving you a quick overview of how the development, waste management. These are faculty members learning about the waste management practices, renewable energy experiments. Auroville has done many. This is the housing from the waste material. So Auroville has been attracting the people, those who are trying to find out, let us say, an alternative or also very conscious way of life to live with this within themselves in the city as well as with the surrounding, the growth of food. We have many farms. I was talking about the city intranet. This is our intranet where residents interact, they post questions, answers, reports, everything is shared. This is something which I would very much like to propose, suggest, like to see in India and maybe rest of the world, that we should have a city intranet along with the mapping possibility. Our internal radio, which is also a very powerful tool, which many cities have nowadays. And our decision making is like this, which is a very consensus based. So community participation is also at the core of the governance model. The maps, the working on the local area where we are on a ridge, we are on a small plateau here, and the way water. So Auroville's first work, as you can see, has been essentially ecological and environmental restoration. So that is the beginning, and Auroville takes great pride into that. And there have been a model working towards the integral planning, integral sustainability platform. You can see these all are the sectors of life, of work or development. And in all these sectors, there has been a great effort which has been done. So it's like a living lab, living university, open university, which is living. People are working in all these areas with their own creativity. There are reports about this. If people are interested, they can get in touch and I'll be happy to share the links. This is what we have been calling our bioregion, and which is essentially a watershed of Kalivili. Kalivili is the tank here. You may be able to see there's a big tank. You will see in the few more slides. And Auroville is that green circle which comes down. And Auroville has been working in this larger area under very thematic headings. I'll just be explaining about that also. So this is central part is Auroville city area and surrounded by the green belt. And these are the further like 5 kilometer and 10 kilometer radius, which touches almost the Pondicherry boundary also come within this. So Auroville is also surrounded by 3 sides. You see these areas are also surrounded by the Pondicherry pockets, the way Pondicherry boundaries have been defined. And Auroville is also under quite, I would say, emerging and intensive prospective development pressure. So this just defines Auroville's homework and also to work together, all of these things. Here I will go a bit more in the detail. And before I go, I would like to highlight, it has been the, let us say, the dedication and commitment of the people, those who came for the vision of Auroville. And when they started living and working here, they got engaged in activities which were directly for Auroville and also for surrounding region. So this is a small map. We are kind of improving it. This is just a small draft which just shows different kind of activities which are there. And they are divided into some themes, and how there is an immediate cluster of 13 villages and there is a larger cluster of 40 villages. So interested people from Auroville, they have been having the projects and activities of different type. You can see the environment, community development, economy development. I'll just be giving you an idea. So we are trying to put them also on the map. There is already a documentation. One example of Sustainable Livelihood Institute, which is in collaboration with Tamil Nadu government. The skill and capacity empowerment of all this. These are the location of the projects or the host entities which are leading those bioregional activities. This will give you an idea which kind of projects are happening. You can see the ABDA is Auroville Bioregional Development Activities. Some of you may know a fairly well-known place called Sadhana Forest, ecological, community living, sanitation, also water and soil conservation. So there is a panel like this, and their location on the map is shown here, which kind of activities. And all of these panels I can share and send to the people, those who are interested. There is a booklet of almost 36 panels PDF, where not only the basic description is given, impact is also mentioned. If you look here where I'm moving my cursor, how this kind of activity has been impacting, I think this kind of documentation is there, and this is very enriching. And if I'm sure there are many cities which are doing, this is another one. EcoFem, you can see here, the cloth-based pad system. There's a dental and health. Auroville has a health centers, both dental as well as normal. They interact, they help with the other sub-centers in the surrounding region. So if we see their number, their reach and everything, the impact, I think it is quite encouraging. That also creates a sense of collaboration, goodwill along the local population. So this is under the heading of health and well-being. This is community development. Auroville Village Action Group is one of the major group dealing with thousands and thousands of surrounding population, both men, women. There are many women group, economic activities, counseling, many activities are happening. And these panels will give you an insight. These panels also have the websites. So this information is there. So I'm just going ahead. Culture, arts and sports. Economic development, you can see Tsunamika, small steps, wallpaper. So the names here on the top right are the Auroville organization or entities which have been the hosting organization, and they have been relating with the surrounding region. So Auroville already receives close to 6,000 to 7,000 people from surrounding area for as a workforce. They work with us, and the cumulative population of 6 villages which are in the within Auroville master plan is easily equal to 20,000 approximately. So Auroville, though it has been working on its own on water, soil conservation and many other activities internally in services, Auroville is already interacting, building a very goodwill general regional base to deal to live together with the surrounding population and enriching that area. This activity. There's a booklet also which we have published by the Town Planning Office, Auroville Outreach Development Database. So if I have to sum up the key learning from Auroville, that has been the spirit of engaging to transform. The people, those who came committed with this kind of vision, they have been engaged in the activity in the surrounding region also, but with the spirit of transformation. So these activities have been happening. But I'm giving you a very quick snapshot. I mean, something like on Auroville can run into a few days. Best is to come and visit whenever next opportunity comes. But I thought it would be good to touch upon these things. Now, shifting a gear a bit, there have been an important regional development plan. This information I had found from TCPO website some time back. So this is the publicly available information, how some different regions have been defined. Within Tamil Nadu, Auroville technically administratively falls into Tamil Nadu. There is a provision within Tamil Nadu Act which talks about 8 regions. But presently, I believe they are more focusing on the regional plan of some of the big metro cities, how the city and the region will come together. Here we talk about how the water has been a uniting element and a cause of coming together. For PVAC, we call it Pondicherry, Villupuram, Auroville and Kadalur regional plan, which has been worked together. I'll share some information and then Probir will be highlighting that. You can see how these are the common areas: water, transport, tourism, economy, disaster, all of this. And on the left hand side, there is a book called Tanks of South India. So over thousands of years, different administrations, kings, dynasties, they have been working immensely on the water management. Water has been the most common and community binding, bringing community together element. So if we can work on some of those elements together, I think that would be a very good way to go ahead. This is the front page of the booklet. This is easily available to download also from the Pondicherry website. You are most welcome. So this is the shape which has been taken. So Pondicherry is here and Auroville is here. This is almost, I believe, 40-kilometer radius which has been taken. Some of the taluks from the different districts, including Pondicherry boundary. So we have to learn, I mean, go beyond the normal notion of administrative boundaries, because they are administrative convenience. They don't govern the development as such. So I think to keep that factor in mind, I'm keeping a track of my own time. I have 3 more minutes. And so the regions are essentially, they are the base for city ecosystem. So if we know a bit more about them, whatever research any academic institution is doing, if it is shared, it is brought into the policy framework. So what I'm sharing is an example from Auroville perspective, from a very grassroots, how committed people work together. They naturally also work with the surrounding region. Documentation is being done, it is being shared, partnerships are being made. I think we are working further to how to put it also on the map in a bit more proper documented way. Government has been taking part in different schemes. So many works have been happening. So I just wanted to share this, I would say, the example of positivity of this kind. So most of the goals which have been talked about here, I believe they cannot be addressed and dealt only in the city domain or somewhere. It's a larger society. So region has a role to play and they can be linked with the region also. And towards the end, what Shirvendo says, that we have to be working all at once on all the elements of spiritual, cultural, educational, social, and economical activity. So the spirituality does not mean that we are not acting on things. Rather, it is opposite. We have to be more conscious and we have to be acting consciously. I think this is the message we get from Auroville, and this is what I would be happy to share and pass it on to you all, showing some of the images. Not many of you are able to visit right now, so maybe these images may be of some help, some visual treat at this point in time. Matre Mandir, the center of Auroville, the soul of Auroville, and how community comes together at certain occasions. This is the banyan tree, the center of Auroville. I would request people to visit Auroville website, very rich, very informative. So Auroville is a living lab for an integral city region. Thank you. This would be from my side, and I have managed with 1.5 minutes early. Not bad. Normally I take more time. Thank you. So if people have some, before I hand it over to Probir or Mr. Anbarasu, because he has to go, if people have questions on this particular session, please feel welcome to write them. Somebody has written already. Now it is visible. Okay, slides were visible earlier. I have there's a one comment which we have got from Facebook. One Mr. Shashikant Kumar, regional data does not exist for evaluation. There are few information, but most of the case people are absent. Government is doing their best, but many ground information lacking. I think this is a classical information. And there's one more question which is coming from Mr. Jeet Kumar Gupta, YouTube. I feel we are missing the real essence of rural planning. Village development has to be different from the urban areas. Unfortunately, the urban clusters selected by the state are not conditions among them merits. So this question is of a different type. I am just taking first one, the first. I would agree, and I'll be very vocal about this and strong about we are actually quite empowered in terms of our technology and possibility if we can just, and there is a huge amount of digital drive which India is leading right now. If we could put together this information, even if it is draft, and if we work out a way in which people can participate, kind of, I'm calling it a city regional intranet. And I would be very willing to work even with we have two of senior IAS officers, and the secretaries of government of Puducherry with us, the many people from academics. So if we could work towards some kind of a city intranet, we could design, it could be in parts, well, community participation in enhanced information is shared, that would be really good. I'm reading one more question which has come. So Mr. Jeet Kumar's question should be answered by Mr. Srinivas, but maybe later. Towards the end, we will take it up. How is the coordination of PVAC organized? Regions cuts across administration boundaries. Intention to create a regional planning committee like the Metropon. Okay, this is the Chris. This is our own Chris is asking. Okay, I thought who is. So in the beginning, there were many interested parties. There are already active groups which are working in this region from across different locations within this larger region. And these are typically very committed people dealing with the different issues, highlighting issues, and also working strongly. Sometimes they also have, let us say, very tough stand with government. They collaborate, sometimes they push government for that. Just to make this point here, they share their highlights, their insights also. So Pondicherry and Tamil Nadu, I will leave it also to Probi to explain, and we have two of the secretaries also here, those who can respond and elaborate on this. But what I am aware is Pondicherry and Tamil Nadu have been in talking terms about the need of regional plan. Particularly also if you see the way geographically Pondicherry is located, it is interspersed in the two of the district of Tamil Nadu. So there is an actual need of also coming together for collaboration. This region is also with the water. There are issues with the water development. So how to bring it all together, and water salinity issues related also come. And Pondicherry is growing very fast. It's a very fast growing also development center. So there is a very direct case of coming together, which has been highlighted, acknowledged, and I would say accepted many times, both political and official leadership of both sides. So the work on this has been happening at two levels. This is my reading of the situation. Government has shown its willingness and supporting different kind of schemes and programs which are happening in the region. Like one of them will be water, which Probir will share. And on the other hand, what is actually at the top level, official level, the government level cooperation and the moving ahead. Perhaps I will leave it to the officials to comment about that. But generally, I have found there has been a willingness and cooperation to work on these topics. So this is a good case where we should be working, and rather we should make this a very ground-based situation and work on this kind of, we should take it to the next level. Pondicherry, this PVAC plan. We have a resource people, we have an organization, an entity like Auroville, so that would be helpful. We have Uttara, following up on the earlier question from Christoph, how is the region itself being defined? So it is a mix. So what would be a short answer would be, I'll request you to go through the booklet. There is a full booklet you can download right now. There is a regional plan full booklet available where all this thing is defined from Pondicherry website. Watershed is essentially one of the key parameters indeed. Mr. Saurabh Bhatt is asking, what is the role of Auroville city in terms of economic development of PVAC region? So Auroville is, in terms of area, a very small entity, but in terms of its resources, intention, capacity, skill, goodwill, I think Auroville has a good presence in that sense. So Auroville offers its possibility and rather a living model. One of the issues which I have come across in my last over 20 years of even professional experience and observation is that very few examples of an integrated development nature are visible. That is why we end up coming to a very limited example of seeing. So Auroville comes across as a very powerful example of transformation of an area. Starting from Auroville area was technically defined as a backward in the government gazette and system. So how from those conditions, some committed people. So the whole thing is, how do we encourage, empower a handful of committed people, those who have the vision and capacity to transform the things and collaborate with them in some kind of scheme, program or framework. I think there lies the promise for the future. So this is what I would say. So Auroville is open, available, already participating in different events, and Auroville is also many times in the front of these things and also helping with the technical skills many a times. And Auroville's model to see is already there in terms of actual realization which has been happening. which is open to many people to come visit, see, learn. Many development programs and activities keep happening here. I think I might have to end here at this because my time is also up with this. Thank you very much. And I can take up more questions later towards the end. If you have, you can always write.
Anwar Ashok will be speaking.
Yes. Would you like to introduce him and say something before?
Yes, Mr. Anwar Ashok is presently the Development Commissioner, Secretary of Agriculture and Chairman of Groundwater Authority. He was earlier in Pondi, and at that time we had a very good connection with him. He helped us in starting Chudgam for the waste management, and we had a wonderful rapport where we achieved a lot. Then he had gone to Delhi, and now he's back. And we are working very closely with him, especially on the water issues. And he has basically been championing the cause of water now. So in my presentation, I'll be telling you more about what all we have been doing.
Thank you. And welcome, Mr. Anbarasu. So your surprise entry is very, very welcome and nice.
Yeah. The bureaucrats always know surprise people in different ways, both on positive and negative side. Anyway, I hope so today it is on the positive side. Thanks, Lalit. Pleasure to meet you and friends. It's a long association I have with you. We have worked out a project together and submitted to European Union 20 years back.
Yes,
and we were quite successful in our approach also. So taking
yes.
things forward, you have mentioned that all these engagements is for transforming things. That is what is the job of all of us. That we are here to collectively join together to transform the way we live on a daily basis. Prabir will give a detailed account of what is being done in Pondicherry in water sector. So I will not dwell at length into the whole issue. So the whole idea which is driving today the water department in Pondicherry is that how best we can leverage the community in conserving and managing the water resources in a more participatory way. The seeds were shown in the early 2000 when government of Pondicherry worked out with the European Union and implemented the tank rehabilitation project. So taking cue from that, we have gone a long way since last 15 years. Now, probably I would call this as a kind of a second phase of the cooperative initiative which we made it 15 years back. I will just quickly outline some of the initiatives which we are planning through the participatory approach. In order to strengthen the community participation, we are in the process of bringing out a separate act called Water Resources Management Act of Union Territory of Puducherry. This will actually codify the kind of association the government had with the Water Users Association. This is in a way kind of an empowering the Water Users Association. And also one question has been asked in the previous panel about managing the information system. In fact, we have had a tour of discussion. Prabir will talk in detail about it. So we would like to have a kind of a robust information system, both on surface water and underground water, so that we'll be able to plan things better. Public will come to know what is the water level, groundwater level, what is the recharge level, what action government is taking. So it will also put the government to account also. So that is the bottom line of this whole initiative. You will be surprised to know that on Monday, we'll be launching a kind of a web-based portal through which one can get easily permit to desilk the ponds. The experience of government is that government puts money to desilk the land, the ponds and tanks. So what we have come out with a system is that from Monday onwards, people can pay online and get permission on instant basis. There is no interface between any government authority and the applicant. So instantly on real-time basis, once you pay the money, you'll be able to get the permit and you can desilk the ponds and tanks. So that initiative is being rolled out by the minister on Monday. And also there are other initiatives of having a separate water resources wing in the government. There are several agencies which are looking into water-related issues: Pollution Control Committee, Groundwater Authority, State Groundwater Unit, PWD Department. So we are trying to bring all the agencies under one umbrella. So we have a water resources organization and we are in the process of strengthening it also. We are also planning to use as to how the treated water from the treatment plants of PWD can replace the extraction of groundwater. So good amount of planning is going on. Looking at groundwater, we are in the process of undertaking a large survey and geotag all the groundwater extracting points in Pondicherry. The exercise has started on 1st of September. So in the month of September, at the end of the month of September, we'll be able to compile as to how many bore wells you have, be it for agriculture, industry, institution, and for water extraction for the government department. So that exercise is parallelly going on. And also we are adding water meters in at all the groundwater extraction points. So on a real-time basis, we will come to know how much quantum of water is extracted in each one of the groundwater unit. And also, government of Pondicherry is probably very few states or union territory which is levying a charge for extraction of groundwater. I think one novel initiative we have taken 2 years back, we are in the process of revising it also. So these are the host of initiatives we are undertaking. In fact, looking at the urban project also, we are working closely with Pondican, and we are in the process of reviving all the surface water related agriculture, because most of the agricultures are extracting groundwater for their day-to-day use. So these are the various initiatives we are doing it. I don't want to stand between you and Probir, because Probir has painstakingly done large amount of work in the last 2-3 decades. I think you'll be too eager to listen to him. So the bottom line is that here is the government which is willing to listen to the stakeholders, which is willing to correct it, which is willing to put right systems for the common good of this particular environmental region. So that is what I assure all of you, that whatever good recommendations are there, we will embrace it and we will implement it with full participation. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Sorry for taking 2-3 minutes extra, because when you talk about water, no, you tend to speak more.
No.
Thank you very much, Lalit, for this opportunity.
Thank
Over
you.
to you, Lalit.
So it was
Thank you so
good
much.
to see you in the flow. It was good to see you in the flow, and it's a very also joyful feeling to see that we all are able to approach and relate with each other going beyond our official status line, and then we can work together as a collaborator, and such an opening and the collaborative possibilities there. That is really very heartening to see. Also, people may not know Mr. Anbarasu is architect by his professional background. So that is also something which I think he might have, I'm assuming, a bit more special liking for development or something on those lines. So we will keep
work together.
We'll keep in touch. I mean, I have yet to meet you. Probir has been saying, but I have been getting updates from him about the water work which has been happening. So we'll listen to Probir now, and I'll be in touch with you. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thanks for coming
you,
and sharing your views.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anbarasu.
Thank you, Probir.
Thank you. Probir, over to Probir. So just to also let people know that we are not taking as such official break in the period. People can manage their own break as they need. So we are continuing with this process. Yeah, just to let you know.
Okay, so thank you, Lalit and Chris, for organizing this webinar. Though my name is Probir means the best warrior. I am actually I stand for harmony, and somehow looks like me and Lalit have the same driving force. That it is essentially the problems of harmony which is causing the problem within us and with the other people and with our surroundings. So the bioregional planning is basically an approach which goes beyond the physical boundaries. Now, if you see the map on the left side, it shows you that it's like one piece. But bioregional planning actually takes it beyond the administrative boundaries and takes a watershed area as the boundaries. And why it is meaningful is because it takes into account the natural infrastructure. It talks to all the people, the communities, and planning is done as a collective, creating a common vision and collective action. We create a rural-urban continuum because most of the times we are developing the cities at the cost of the surrounding villages, because we don't produce water or food or energy. It comes from the surrounding areas, and together we can design something long-term. Now, for this kind of work, it is absolutely a must that we work all together. Otherwise, the whole thing will collapse. Now, if you see this bioregional plan on the left side, It's basically a 40 kilometers radius starting from Pondicherry, goes from on the north, it goes to Marakanam. And I'll put the cursor here. Yeah, this is the Kaliveli tank, and then you have the Auroville bioregion. This is the Usteri Lake, and then the Bahur Lake, and this is the Kadlor Perumal Eri. Now, interestingly, if you see the migratory bird flyway comes this way and comes to all these 5 water bodies. And this is what we have defined as a bioregion, not intentionally, but it so happened. And so basically, and this is one side, and on the other side, we have the coast, 80 kilometers coast. And so if you see on this end, on the eastern end, we have the coast, the beaches, sand dune, estuaries, etc. And just behind that, we have the wetlands, which actually hold the water. The water comes from the higher regions, which is further west, this area, and the water flows down and it is held in these tanks and ponds, and then it flows down into the sea. And then, of course, we have the forests, which are habitats for flora and fauna, and also it supports the bunds and the whole water system. And this, if you see, it is like one piece, but unfortunately, we have divided it administratively. We call it Pondicherry and Viluppuram and Kadlor, and we made districts, and we've cut it up and made it into like a puzzle which you have to fit in. And so we are now working together. So it is interconnected through natural resources, climate, culture, history, tourism, etc. And most importantly, we have a common coast. Our first feeling of a need for a bioregional planning happened in 2006-07 when we started working on the coast. Because in Pondicherry, they built a harbor in 86 to 89. And because of the harbor, if you see, it was actually when they designed it, they knew that this would block the flow of sand towards the north. And they had to do artificially what nature does free of cost. But as usual, we built the harbor, but we did not want to spend money for the dredging. And as a result, there was a huge erosion problem all along the coast. And it spread not only in Pondicherry to the northern end, but it has spread right up to Auroville, which is almost 10 kilometers from here. And because of this erosion, the beach is gone. The coast has become more vulnerable to cyclones and tsunamis. About 12 fishing villages, the fishermen have lost their homes and livelihoods. The agricultural lands have turned into wastelands. And this beautiful beach space, we had a really wide 150, 200 meters beach, which is completely gone. So recreation, tourism, all that is lost. And the worst part of it is that because of erosion and the disappearance of the beach, the saltwater intrusion has turned the entire Pondicherry's groundwater saline. And earlier, we used to be proud of our water, but unfortunately, that is gone. So we've been persevering patiently for 10 years, and finally, we managed to convince the central government Ministry of Earth Science to help us restore the beach. And what the design came up with was that we have to build a structure on the northern end to hold or stabilize the beach, and the sand from the harbor mouth has to be dredged and pushed into this area. This was supposed to be done anyway, but unfortunately, it was not done for 30 years now. So this has to be done. And this, here you see that the caisson, the submerged steel caisson was put in place, and then the dredging happened. This is the dredger with the pipelines. And we also have the capital dredging, which is called the rainbow technique. You take a huge chunk of sand from the south side or the harbor mouth, and you push it towards the in front of the Pondicherry beach. Now under Sagarmala, there's going to be the entire backlog of sand would be recovered. So Pondicherry, hopefully by next year, we'll have a lovely beach all along. Now, how do you measure this happiness quotient? Yes, before March it was like this, and after that we have a beach. But when the best part is when you go for a walk on the beach and you see people playing and laughing and families together, people playing volleyball and cricket. And it's such a happy sight to see people having this recreation space, which we had lost for so many years. As far as the bioregional planning is concerned, actually we came up with this concept of bioregional planning. This was with Town and Country Planning Department of Pondicherry, Lavanir of Auroville, and Pondican. We came up with the concept that we need to get into a much larger planning stage and not restrict to administrative boundaries. So there was a workshop which was done, which was water management through integrated planning and regional collaboration. Several workshops which happened. And after these few workshops, somebody found out in the Town and Country Planning of Pondicherry that way back in 1986, the Ministry of Urban Development had written a letter to the government of Pondicherry and Tamil Nadu that Pondicherry and Auroville are fast-growing cities, and you need to have a regional planning in place. So we took that as the foundation, and a lot of work has happened in terms of meetings, in terms of workshops. But I will just touch upon a few landmark events which have happened. This is the study which we had done. It took us about a year and a half. And the whole idea was to find out whether this concept of a bioregional planning has a buy-in by the governments and by the people. So there was a huge effort in going to compiling information, going to field surveys, community surveys, stakeholder meetings, and we took 4 themes: land use, transportation, water, and energy. These were the 4 key sectors we focused on, and we came out with this report, which is basically finding out what are the strengths we have, what are the challenges, and how we can come out with a framework for sustainable development. Now, we have been focusing a lot on water. We all say water is life, and it is, this is what sustains our survival and health and development and so on. And though it is enshrined in the Constitution, the right to pollution-free water and access to safe drinking water, but what we are actually doing in Pondicherry as well as the rest of the country is absolutely atrocious. Most of the ponds are filled up with garbage and sewage lines flowing into it. The third picture, which you see here, is a pond where the sewage department is pumping the sewage into this pond because the main sewage pump is substandard, so it is not enough. So they are pumping the sewage water, and this is the pond where Bharatiyar is to take his bath. And then you have this huge problem of extraction. Pondicherry has 8,000 bore wells. And because of those bore wells pumping so much water, water has become saline. But there was a proposal under Rural Mission, which is shocking, to put 80 bore wells across Pondicherry. So this is what we have taken up, and we have working with Anbarasu and the LG and the others to stop this kind of destruction, because if these bore wells are done, Pondicherry is ruined. And that's why I like this Hubert Reeves quotation: man is the most insane of species. He worships an invisible God. And destroys his visible nature, unaware that this nature he destroys is the God he's worshipping. So we are looking for God in other places, but not finding it here where God is. Then coming to the water festival, in 2016, we had to create awareness and bring people on board. We organized a major water festival starting from on 2nd February, which is the World Wetlands Day, and it spanned for 50 days and ended on 22nd March, which is the World Water Day. And if you see on the left side, you'll see the number of organizations which were part of this water festival. It was launched from Pondicherry by the Chief Minister, and there was a Neer Kudam, which is essentially a water jug, which was launched by the Chief Minister. And this Neer Kudam was traveling all along the bioregion to witness the events. So each week we focused on one sub-region. So first week was Bahur, second week Kadlur, Pondicherry, and so on. In the final valedictory function, you see the picture here on the right. This is where the Neer Kudam came, and it was taken up. And it is basically a symbolic connection, because at the groundwater aquifer, we are all connected, but to show that we are also connected at the surface water level. So we had formed a collective called All for Water for All, which had organizations from all the sub-regions who were part of it. And this 50 days saw a gala of events. In the school, we had puppet shows, theaters, exhibitions, competitions. And in community events, we cleaned up ponds together. And that's when people realized that why are we waiting for the government to clean up? We come together, we work for 3 hours and the pond is clean. We organized a lot of stakeholder meetings to see what are the next steps we need to take. There were a lot of common events, visiting, because most of the people in Pondicherry have not even visited Bahur and Usteri and all these beautiful water bodies that we have. We had a lot of programs on film, dance, music, crafts. We had seminars, and before each event, we had a water pledge which people had to take, and there was a banner. Each banner was about 100 feet, and there were 30 banners which went round, and totally at the end of it, we had a 3 kilometers long banner. Then on 2018, we had this huge consultation meet where we had the Lieutenant Governor, Chief Minister, local MLAs, and also Mr. Krishnan, who is the Principal Secretary from Government of Tamil Nadu. In fact, all the previous meetings, we had representatives from the Government of Tamil Nadu as well at the secretary level. So in this, everyone pledged their support to this bioregional planning, and it was obvious that water was the foundation. And in this workshop, we had presentations from each of the sub-regions. So we had a lovely glimpse of the strengths of each of the sub-regions and the challenges they're facing and so on. It was a whole day workshop. So we had broken into groups and discussed how to go forward. And the 3 topics we chosen was, the 3 were general, which is institutional framework, how to coordinate between the sub-regions, and how do we collect information, analyze, and disseminate them. And thematic workshops was, of course, water, transportation, and coast. And this planning is crucial because, as Stanley Judd says, a good plan is like a roadmap. It shows the final destination and usually the best way to get there. Now, in terms of water initiative, Pondicherry and the surrounding region is gifted by the Cholas with an ingenious water system. We have these cascading tanks, like I showed you earlier. And most importantly, they had this Kudu Marmatu system, which involved the local communities in the management of the water bodies. So all the desilting work, strengthening plans were carried out by this community. In fact, what Anbarasu was saying is we are trying to revive this because unless we take ownership, there is no way we can protect these water bodies. When the French took over, they institutionalized the system. For the larger tanks, they had the Syndicate Agricole, and for the ponds, it was the Case Commune. And budgets were prepared, and they followed the entire system that the Cholas had initiated. Unfortunately, when the Pondicherry government took over in 1963, gradually the whole thing collapsed, and we had the water salinity, and eventually they had to ban bore wells. But fortunately, in 1999, the European Union funded this project of TRPP, which Anbarasu mentioned, Tank Rehabilitation Project of Pondicherry. And when the experts came, they said that, I mean, if you, they were absolutely awed by the system which we had. And they said that if you revive this, we will provide the funding. So it was revived, and 1999 to 2004, we worked on it. And the whole system was revived to its ancient glory. And the system continued till 2008, after which again the system stopped and the communities were no more involved in the protection of the water bodies. But subsequently from 2018, a lot of initiatives have been taken. Our Honorable Lieutenant Governor, Dr. Kiran Bedi, had started this initiative called Water Rich Puducherry. And thanks to that, 86 kilometers of canals were cleaned up. And that also, because of lack of funding, it was through the CSR funding. And we also organized a walk, a 6.7 kilometers walk along the Sitiri Channel, which ended in that Manapet tank. And you can, all along, you see this beautiful scenery, the agricultural belt and so on. And you can see this ancient aqueduct, which the Cholas had made to drain water from one field to the other so that none of, there is sufficient water, but there is never any flooding. So all these things are going to be revived, hopefully. And then we have the district collectors initiative called Neerum Urum, which is water and village. And under that, a lot of NGOs are involved in desilting of ponds and tanks. And as Anbarasu just mentioned, that this is hugely complicated. You have to apply to the revenue department to get e-pass and all. I mean, and all that, which will be now simplified thanks to Anbarasu's initiative, and there'll be e-pass. So here, when we took up this project, instead of when we went to this Vanankulam, which is in Marapalam, instead of seeing a pond, we see there's a mountain, and there's a mountain of garbage. So anyway, thanks to the support of the local MLA and the district collector, we have revived this whole pond, and we planted trees all around, and it has a capacity now of 50 lakh liters. And this project has also been included under the Smart City project. Then I come to this next project that we took up, Nirum, under Nirumurum. It is a pond in Ebishakapekam. It is
Probir,
about
1 minute.
1.5 hectares.
Probir, 1 minute.
Okay, you can see the kind of situation which was and how much of soil we had to remove. This will have 1.5 crore liters. Then we had a lot of tree planting programs. This is about Bahur initiative. The Bahur, I mean, there's a lot of information on Bahur. And now there's a Smart Bahur initiative was launched by the Honorable Lieutenant Governor, where 8 components are taken. And this is as parallel to the Smart City project, water, solid waste management, and so on. And this is about improving resilience and this whole thing about vocal for local, how to empower these local communities. And this is the initiative which Anbarasu was talking about, that now he has taken up seriously the implementation of the Puducherry water policy, and which has all the right elements. If you see on the left side, it has talks about all the right things. So a stakeholder meeting was organized recently on 20th of August, where all these points were discussed, and we have come out with we are coming out with a blueprint. And this is the information system, which is absolutely crucial, because now information is available. Pollution control is having their information. PWD is having their information, which is not, nobody shares the information. And on the 26th, we had a meeting where now it is all this information will be put in public domain. So the discussion was what kind of information are actually required, what that should be put on one GIS platform, and how to share this information, and how the communities, people can actually populate this information through the because from the local side, because otherwise this information is not getting updated. So we came out with a list of all the things regarding water, sewage, and others. What are the different layers? So which is there, which you can see in the presentation. Now this is the last thing, which is on the left side. You see this is the channel system, which was I talked about. And now we are working with Anbarasu to clean up 5 irrigation channel networks. They're connected with all these ponds and tanks. So the Bangaru Vaikal, Siteri Vaikal, Guduvayu Vaikal, Abhishekam, and Vadanur. And the work is expected to start very soon, and we hope to finish it by October. Totally, there are 12 irrigation channel systems, and we hope to take up at least 5, so that this year monsoon is expected to be excellent. So hopefully all these ponds and tanks, which have not been receiving water for some years now because of the channels being blocked, the artery system, once it is restored, then we will see more water. So I thank you, and I leave you with this thought that the future is not some place we are going to, but one we are creating. The paths are not to be found, but made. And the activity of making them changes both the maker and the destination. Thank you very much, Lalit. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Probir. Always very inspiring. Both very grounded and very uplifting. So the participants can post their questions in the chat box, please. There is already one question, but others can also put theirs. And I see somebody's mic is on. Priyanka Singh, could you please mute your mic?
Now, which is the...
Yeah, now it's fine.
Where do I start?
No, you just wait.
How did you handle the solid waste issue to revive the pond as part of Nirumurum? Basically, we in our work, we always work with the community, local community, and the community is basically the tank association. So we we do a massive cleanup of the garbage from that area. So the garbage had to be removed, and then the desilting had to be done. So we were fortunate that actually what happens is that it's not that the local community doesn't want the garbage to be removed. They want it, but they feel helpless. Who will do it? But if somebody can just trigger something, like we go and trigger them and we say that, do you like this? They say no, then can we clean it up? So we bring huge amount of volunteers, students and all that, and we got it clean. And now they say that they're going to maintain it. And they are. Actually, whenever I go on Sundays, I see that there's a karate club and they bring all the children. They go and clean up the ponds. They're planting trees. Now they've started taking ownership of this pond. Because once you have a dirty place, people keep making it dirtier. But once you have an inspiring place, you see people now coming for walks, because this tank that we have revived, now people are going, you see morning and evening, people are walking around it, and it's become a beautiful recreational space. How can community populate information? Yes. See, there are a lot of information which need to be done on real time. And so, for example, we are at present working with 20 schools. They have this rainwater harvesting gauge, and they measure the rainfall data. So now University has agreed that we will give to all the schools. There are about 425 schools. So each school will be working with the rainfall gauge, and this will actually sensitize them that it's not, water does not just come from the tap to the drain. People think that water is, you open the tap, you get water, and it goes to your drain, and that's the end of the journey of water. But what happens before the tap and what happens after it goes into your drain, something which people are completely blank. So this is an awareness thing that we want to bring about in the students. So if each school can adopt one pond, we have 609 ponds, but of course maybe 200-300 have disappeared. But if each school can adopt one pond, and so they do the rainwater harvesting thing, they collect the folk tales of each of this pond, they sensitize the local community, non-throwing garbage into the pond. So involving students is one part. And for example, pollution data. How do you measure, can the government officers actually measure pollution data from 84 tanks and 609 ponds? Of course not. But if they can train the local people into checking the pollution levels and the water levels and things like that, the community will be willing to participate. And the Pondicherry Engineering College is actually developing apps so that this information could directly be populated in the common platform. What is the
you can take one more last question. Remaining question I'll share with you later.
Okay. How do you deal with dynamics of rapid?
You can choose anyone.
Okay, the land use change. Yeah, that is exactly the fear. The whole purpose is that how can we stop this land use change? And one thing is that if you see the ponds are the most vulnerable, because they have stopped these channels and these ponds are not getting fed. They become dry, and then they are filled up, and their pattas are issued by the revenue department. So it is crazy, but these ponds, many of these ponds have disappeared because the government has issued patta on these lands. So this is something which has to be stopped. Now with this monitoring, what will happen is each pond will be monitored by the local people, and if there is any encroachment, it will be taken up by the local community people along with the government, because now there's a steering group. There's a whole formation which has been made, which will involve the government officials as well as the local communities in monitoring the water bodies. And so these are the first thing we need to protect are the water bodies. Okay.
I think we have to end it at this. In terms of question, in the interest of time, we have to give time for Mr. Mahesh. And then if we still are left with some time and there are people having energy, those who want to continue, we can perhaps go for a few more minutes. Prabir, thank you very much. Always inspiring. It is always joy to see how the ground root action and engaging with the people is really transforming the situation.
In fact, that is the most crucial part, Lalit, is that all water and everything is fine, but these challenges can be met only when we work together with the community and with the government and all that. And that is the real challenge. Thank you.
This is what Auroville teaches us. No? In order, like Before we think or imagine that we have to work outwardly and do some action, the actual work is within us. To be ready to prepare ourselves to work together. I think that is the key. Great, thank you very much. I would like to invite now Mr. Mahesh, an IAS officer and the Secretary Town and Town Planning and Housing, Government of Pondicherry. He has been available with us for quite some time, listening to all of this, and would like to hear his comment and insights on this theme. Welcome.
Good evening, Lalit,
Namaskar,
Cherry, Prabir, Banerjee, and my very dear friend, and of course, Mr. Annabratu, who just left us, my senior. Well, I have been here for a year, just completed 1 year on the 25th of August. And I'm going to speak, my structure of presentation is as follows. I'm going to speak on the challenges to what are the challenges for the bioregional planning in India? And secondly, what are the possible solutions we have? It's great to hear Prabir and other friends and colleagues very inspiring and encouraging what we can do at the local level. But whatever we want to do, we must have a perspective, at a macro level, what we can achieve and how to go about. First of all, please understand the models of development which we are following, not only in India, but other countries, whether you look at the free market economy or you look at the centrally planned economy, the Marxist model, they are not environmental centric. There is no connection with the environment in both these models of development. So we need a new model of development, which is very important, which does not generate negative externalities. And the most important in my view is the bioregional planning. But bioregional planning as a concept is a great idea, and I am for it, and we must go for it. But the question is, what is the legal framework do we have? Do we have a legal framework? Are there laws to support bioregional planning in India? Well, here I would just like to mention the importance of environment in the Indian Constitution. And if you look at the importance of environment, forest and wildlife, was earlier with the state government. But in 1976, Indira Gandhi's government, through 42nd Constitutional Amendment, moved the issue of environment, forest, wildlife by making an amendment and adding entries 17A and 17B in the concurrent list. Why it was done was to ensure that the center and the state can together play an important role on issues of environment, ecology, because it is not just confined to the state. The borders are, transnational, they are trans-state. So that was very, very important. That's the point number one I just wanted to make, that how the entry of environment, wildlife, forest was, how important it was, and how this entry was made in the concurrent list through the 42nd Amendment by Madam Indira Gandhi, keeping in view the importance, just to ensure that we are able to implement the environment in a much better manner. But have we been able to do so? We have number of environmental laws, as you all know. It's a gathering of great experts. Then, if you look at what happened in the 7th schedule of the Indian Constitution, do we have a mention of bioregional planning? No. Union list does not mention about any planning, whether it is regional planning or any economic or social planning. The subject of social and economic planning is mentioned in the concurrent list. But again, it is not the bioregional planning. Then India witnessed a great revolution in the Indian democracy when we had the 73rd Constitutional Amendment, when we had the Panchayati Raj institution. And then we had the 74th constitutional amendment when we introduced the Nagar Palikas. But the Panchayati Raj institution again do not have any entry, any subject matter regarding economic and social planning. It is part of the urban local bodies which have come up to the 74th constitutional amendment. So to summarize, that within the constitutional framework, you do not find any reference to bioregional planning, which is such an important, it is the core if we want to protect our environment, and we can't do without it. So this is so my first point is that, look, we need to have the entry of bioregional planning as a separate entry in the concurrent list. We have the forest, we have the wildlife, but there is a need to have bioregional planning. Why I am saying so is that if you have an entry, then the central government can bring out a legislation. It can also have a model national bioregional planning, which will be very critical to all the states. So a legal framework is prerequisite for undertaking any kind of a bioregional planning framework in India. Secondly, if we have the bioregional planning legal framework, are we sure it's going to be enforced? Are we sure that it's going to be implemented? Well, we have the National Region Planning Board, right? And we had four states: Delhi, Rajasthan, Haryana, and UP. Just imagine, we had a board. Then what happened? They said, no, if we have a legal framework, things will be enforced much better. This is a regional planning board. Of course, it was not a bio-regional planning kind of a stuff. But the National Capital Planning Board became Non-Cooperation Capital Planning Board. There were 8 sectors on which there was to be cooperation. Let's look at the issues of environment. During the air pollution in Delhi, did Haryana, did UP implement the environment graded plan? No. There are 8 sectors on which we have to cooperate, collaborate, and work within the legal framework, but it was not done. We have states, we have government and political parties of different parties, and they pull in different directions as per their own interest, as per their own agenda. That is a very big problem. Therefore, what do you do then? So the issue here is, please understand, it's an issue of cooperative federalism. In India, federalism is an integral part of Indian constitution. You cannot do away with Indian federalism. And in federalism, if you want that, if you really want the things to take place in the state level, you must have a collaborative central and the state working together. It is very, very important that there is a cooperative federalism, which is very, very important. Why it is important? Because when you undertake bioregional planning, what happens, the boundaries are not coterminous with the administrative boundaries or the political boundaries. There will be a couple of states together. So it is an issue of cooperative federalism, which is the need of the hour. So how to go about? Well, we have 2 fantastic examples of cooperative federalism in India. One is we had the goods and services tax in 2017. It was a revolution in the history of taxation in India. That the state gave up its power to tax the goods, central gave up its part to tax the good, and then there was a GST, we know that. But it has again run into a big problem. Now there's a problem of trust deficit in terms of compensation. Now again, the second point is the RERA. RERA is a subject, again land subject, which is a state subject. But RERA was also, the RERA law is also a success in terms of through cooperative federalism. So what I am saying is, if we can make GST, a success, not a great success, but things are evolving, and RERA law, a success in terms of implementation through cooperative federalism, then why can't we work on the bioregional planning, which will provide life, which will provide livelihood to us? And there is no alternative to bioregional planning if we want to save the environment in this world. We know our great scholar, the great historian, Noah Harari, the great challenges. He talks about the nuclear weapon, the artificial intelligence, the disruptive technology, the climate change. Now just imagine, you can't go back. So you have to act forthwith. So what I'm saying is, it is important that this issue of bioregional planning has to be viewed in the context of cooperative federalism. Then there will be issues of resources. Who will share the resources? Who will contribute? These are the issues. Effective coordination between center and state. And that too in a country like India, where you don't have ruling and opposition parties, but you have coalition of political parties. And these coalitions are quite often heterogeneous, with so much of ideological differences, so much of regional differences, one-man-based party. So please understand the challenges of doing anything which is transnational in character. So, what is the way out? Again, that's a problem. So if you have a bioregional plan, is that a solution to the problems then? Let's assume that everything is fine. No, you have to have a proper effective master plan. You need a proper, GDP, detailed development plan. But in my view, the most important thing is community participation. And here it's the role of civil society, like what our dear friend Lalit, Probir, Sherry, all of you are working, is a great effort. That you try to build up that consciousness level at the level of common citizens of this country, the importance of bioregional planning, which is prerequisite for the success. If it's a bottom-up approach, we will be owning it, and it's the people which should be the center for whatever we do. Ladies and gentlemen, having identified some of the stumbling blocks and the problems which I have flagged, now what are the solutions you can think of? I've already suggested the solutions as well. But again, to summarize, at the global level, can we develop an international convention on bioregional planning? Why not? We have come out with several conventions in the field of environment. If you look at the number of conventions, it's numbered, more than 30, 40 conventions are there. But why not have an international convention on bioregional planning? Of course, any convention in law is not binding, enforceable, but it has a great persuasive value. That is the importance of an international convention. Second point, when you talk about the bioregional planning, you just can't talk in terms of countries only. Let's be very honest, in India, with the problem within India in terms of state cooperation. But are the bioregions, are they coterminous with the countries in the world? No. Look at South Asia. So I think when we have SARC as an organization, of course, which is not very operational and functional in the manner it ought to be, but this can certainly become an issue which will be in the interest of all these South Asian countries, which is a kind of a win-win situation for all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, the third point, as I said, the legal framework is very, very important. As I have already discussed, first an entry we need in the 7th schedule of the Indian Constitution in the concurrent list. Thereafter, followed by a national legal framework and a model national bioregional plan. Then we can dovetail our other plans. You are all experts. I'm not a planner, by the way. That's very, very important. Then, what is important is at the level of Pondicherry now. Of course, Kabir has laid down some he flagged some very important events which have taken place regarding bioregional planning. As Secretary Town and Country Planning, certainly we will have a bioregional planning cell to take it forward. And Kabir, please tell us what happened post 2018. Why things were dead for 2 years? I can understand the corona post March 2019. What has happened, say, from 2018 to March 2019, and we will work on that.
Your sound is not very clear. There is quite some disturbance coming towards the end, so it is not clearly audible. There is some disturbance is there.
Can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you, but it is not clear at all. There is quite a lot of disturbance in the sound. I think there are some comments also, even I am noticing. There is some sound disturbance. I don't know what it is.
Well, now I'm about to finish now and conclude that in the framework of governance, to achieve any objective, all of us, the government, the civil society, and the private sector, all three of us have to play an important and a cooperative and a collaborative role. Thank you for giving me this opportunity and time to flag some important issues. I'm sorry if you've not been able to hear. It's a technology problem, but I don't know. I wish you had told me before that. I am already over now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mahesh. It was very, very insightful to hear the perspective from your end and how you have the visualization of also very systematic view about this kind of issue, and keeping also the legality of the task in mind. I think it is very important reminder. But some of the key point which I personally take away from your talk again and again, 2 point I take, it comes to cooperation and collaboration and community participation as the crux. And in between there are many issues. Even when we talk about legalities, rules, regulation, they are essentially to enhance and assist this kind of collaboration, cooperation within the framework. So framework is the nature of framework is assistance, facilitation, but for the larger good in that sense. So I see that point coming out again and again in your talk, and also very happy to hear your willingness and uh, offer of help towards the work for bioregional planning, both within the local context as well as your insight about how something like this should be taken up also at a national and international level. So the term bioregion could be referred into many ways, and we can also enter into very definitional discussions. In Auroville, we have been using it primarily because of the also Kalivali watershed under which we fall. So PVAC regional plan went a bit beyond that Kalivali watershed because the watershed was changing. So the name of term and terminology can be looked into, but the larger point which comes across again and again, the way we live, the things which we use for our living, the environment, the support system, it follows some other logic than only the logic of, let us say, administrative procedure and requirement. And towards that, if we are willing to find a way to go across those boundaries and figure out a way to rather tap into the potential of people, the resources to work together, I think that is very challenging as well as it will be greatly satisfying work to be done for all of us. Thank you very much for your time and energy and your insight, and we keep in touch. Probir has been our man for you, and I think he has been talking very greatly about your cooperation and help. Thank you again. So there are some questions. We have already touched 6:30. We still have some 60 people with us, including us. Maybe we can take 1 or 2 questions. Up to you, whatever you feel like taking up. Some of the last few questions. I leave it to you. And there are many questions. I'm not sure we can take all, but I'm copying all the questions.
Just to clarify, Lalit,
Yes.
that in that PVAC bioregional planning's report that we have prepared,
Yes.
we've also given at the end a recommendation of how the whole thing will move forward. Not only the definition, but in terms of governance, how the structure will happen. So all that has been actually has been thought out and put. But of course, this is a proposal. Now, after discussion, this could be fine tuned. So so that is something which we need to, because I saw a lot of questions regarding the how it is going to go forward, and regarding the different sectors and how to coordinate that. So we have written all those in the recommendation.
Okay. There are some questions. You have already responded to some I am seeing. Some people are liking the talk series and appreciative. Thank you very much for your time, energy, and interest. There is a Mr. Jeet Kumar Gupta again from YouTube. The question has been put up here. It is about what I am able to quickly see. Though it's a very long narrative and question is that basically again, the crux which are coming is that we go into the depth of figuring it out the local context before we offer the solutions. If I'll put it in a very summarized way.
Put this in my briefcase.
Mr. Mahesh, would you like to answer or take up any one question? Some of them, is it?
I'm not, just for a sec, hang on. Yeah, which one, sir?
Up to you. There are, if you just scroll down towards the last, there are 3-4 questions. It is up to you. We can take 1 or 2 questions. We are already beyond our normal time. There's a one question from Chris again. For bioregional planning, we need to think about what kind of planning approach, integrating various types of planning to overcome the current fragmentation, rigidity and absence of plans, applying land use and zoning plans, strategic planning, longer term scenario planning, long term, and a long duration planning vision. This is a comment from Christoph, who is one of the co-organizers.
I think this is an interesting question because at the moment the focus is very much on master plans and creating plans over a long period of time, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years to create a master plan. And the plan is overtaken by the reality of the dynamic situation of land use changes and so on. So it will be, I think, an important question and a discussion.
Yes. Hold on. You can go ahead, Christoph. Christoph, you can go ahead.
His audio is muted.
Oh.
So that can be unmuted.
So yes, yeah, sorry for that. So how can planning become also more flexible in terms of responding to dynamic changes? And we could look into strategic planning, which has a longer time window, a longer time horizon actually. And maybe also what are the scenarios that the communities and also the authorities could create for a future pathway? What would be the vision that is connected to the scenarios? And also thinking about what would be the more transformative rather than the business as usual future scenarios. So these are different planning approaches, and I think in many cases they are not fully leveraged or even applied. So has there been any thought about this for the bioregion and also in the PVCA context?
Prabir, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, regarding the approach, see, basically, the whole idea is that it's the people who plan. It's all about, we had these meetings, stakeholder meetings, where the farmer and the minister was there. And normally they have, they don't see eye to eye, and this is a huge conflict. And in fact, during the stakeholder meeting, there was like sparks going around, and people were getting angry. But what was interesting is at the end of the consultation meeting, each one could hear something of the other, because you have some perception about their views and all that. So there was a rapprochement, and people, they started talking, and the things eased out. So there has to be the dialogue, because we hold this kind of notion and perspectives about about the government, about so many things. But it's only when you start talking that you can change these things, and then it's going to be more organic. So I think the stakeholder meeting is the most crucial, and that's where the NGOs can play a big role, because we are kind of the bridge between bringing the government from one side and the civil society from one side. And sometimes we have to even be a bridge between the state government and the central government, because the state government didn't have funds for the beach restoration, so we had to go and appeal and get the central government to come and fund the beach restoration. So we have to play that role. And so yes, so we have to be informed about all sides. We have to understand. We have to keep our network, and this formation of this network is absolutely crucial. This connection with the like I was telling you about this 80 borewells which are being planned, or they're started. So you get information from the community that this is going on here. So immediately you respond, you write to the government, and things start changing. So we managed to salvage that situation. So keeping a connection with the community, which has their ears to the ground, and on the other hand, you have the government who are the decision makers, bringing them together is the real challenge. And that's what we have been doing, and hopefully we'll continue to do.
There are some more questions. Mr. Mahesh had to go, so he has left, which is understandable. We are already 6:38.
So somebody has asked whether the Tamil Nadu government, anybody is on board. Now, the point is that this is an initiative by the Pondicherry government. Not the Pondicherry government, Pondicherry, which includes the civil society and the government and all that. At the moment, as Mahesh has clearly told you, there's no framework, there are no laws about the bioregional planning. So the whole idea of our effort was to create a pilot. Now we are talking about bioregional planning. Will it work? Will it not work? You cannot make it into a policy, or you cannot make a framework unless it has been tested. Now in India, it has not been tested. National Capital Region was not taking into account the natural infrastructure. It was just to decentralize the growth which was going to happen in Delhi. They had no intention of protecting the environment or anything. So, that was just totally absent. It was just how there's going to be a congestion in Delhi, how we can spread out the development by creating these urban centers. That was the whole point. Now, in this, we are trying to create a new concept. Now, every time a meeting has been called, people from at the secretary level from Tamil Nadu have come. So it is not that they don't want it, but the thing is that it's not their initiative. And if for the moment, it has to be a loose structure. In fact, the chief minister, if you saw my presentation, in the last meeting, the chief minister actually agreed that he will talk to the central government and create that link between the central government, Tamil Nadu, and Pondicherry, because it's an interstate issue. We can build a rapport. That's why I have requested, because earlier town and country planning secretaries were not taking any interest really. But Mahesh ji has agreed to set up a regional planning cell where there'll be somebody looking into the regional planning. Unless you have somebody from the government side who is pushing this agenda, things will not happen. We can keep trying and trying. We will have a lot of informal meetings, a lot of events, a lot of workshops with the Tamil Nadu secretaries and all that. But it is not going to actually go the way we want until we create a cell in Pondicherry and as well as in Tamil Nadu to take this up as a pilot project. And if it works, then it could be taken in the other sub-regions. Interestingly, what Krishnan said in that last, Lalit, if you remember, that in Tamil Nadu, they have taken up regional planning in 8 zones. And they are trying to implement this regional planning thing. And what he said was, there it's a top-down approach. The government is trying to enforce a regional planning concept. The people, of course, are not, they don't know anything about regional planning and all that. Whereas in Pondicherry and Auroville, the whole foundation is there. The people are agreed. The people have agreed. The governments have agreed. Everything is there. It's absolutely right to take off. So it's only fair that we form the regional planning cell and the government starts talking to the Tamil Nadu government, because it's not only at the NGO level. We have to talk at the secretary level. There has to be a discussion at the ministry level. And the other important thing is our in the meeting of the governors, the last meeting of the governors, our Honorable Lieutenant Governor Dr. Kiran Bedi had presented the regional planning concept in that meeting, and people were actually very enthused to hear about this bioregional planning concept. We had prepared the whole draft for her, and people were actually quite interested to look into this whole thing about this bioregional planning. For them, for the bigger states, it's not a problem because the whole thing will remain in the state. Whereas here, we have a challenge because there are two states involved. But in spite of that, what all we have done was actually very much appreciated at the governors' meet in Delhi.
Thank you, Prabir. Shall we wrap it up and end here, because people might have to also be leaving? It is already time. One of the quick comment about the kind of question which people are asking, which is understandable, about legal framework, and the last question here by Mr. Raj, the influence of which union territory and the district administration different and the state governments.
We work with the collector.
But the point which I have noticed also with my living experience in Auroville and seeing people like Probir working is, somewhere there is a greater, so the collaboration of course has to be there, but there is a greater possibility, power of transformation in when people feel empowered and they come forward to act on things, and to enable that, to facilitate that. If our state government set up organizations, institutions, if they help and facilitate that in some way, I think that would be a very win-win situation. For example, as again and again it is coming to me, if we have a city net, city intranet, we have a city app, I'm sure people would be very willing to put information, post, learn a bit better, and report about the water use, misuse, treatment. And so we are almost entering into a stage where some amount of technological help can bring us towards the next level of engagement, is the point. Activity has to be done, but this, we are at a term where we can have this engagement in a much better way, and these possibilities are existing. So that will really help to include people, and people themselves will then own it up. I think that is the longest and most sustainable way. Governments come and go, though they help, they come and go. Again, there's the
always stays.
Yes,
Community stays forever.
I mean, the main thing I have seen is those who are interested, invested their life energy in a place, those who are engaging with a place in a local system, I think they should be given a chance and opportunity and capacity building opportunity and integrating platform. Essentially, it's a platform which is to be built, and then the capacity also gets generated out of that. This is kind of my final comment. There are a few more questions which I am just copying and keeping. It is already close to 6:45. People are leaving. We have very few people also now. So I'll just request Christophe to make any final remarks of thank you from my side. Thank you everyone for being here, and all the speakers. Christophe.
Yes, thank you very much to all the speakers. This was a wonderful session, and I think an excellent start to go into an in-depth study, in fact, which we could use as a benchmark for the next webinar sessions as well. Lots of points that I see that we can pick up in the next few sessions as well, especially to use this as a comparative case for what is to come in the next few sessions. So I don't want to take too much time now out of this, because we are way beyond the time, and I hope that we will see most of you, all of you in the next few weeks again. And I think we will have a copy also available that can be viewed on YouTube. Is that right, Lalit?
Both YouTube and Facebook. This is already being live streamed.
Okay.
They have the links, and it can be shared again.
So have a good evening, and see you next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.